G'day, it's Neill here, playing a very special version of Haunt the House Terrortown for Halloween. Now, I'm gonna let this play in the background and we're gonna be telling some Halloween horror stories. Now, actually this game is, used to be a Flash game and now it's not. It's by SFB Games, as I do recall. And the gist of it is to reclaim your town by possessing things and triggering all the cutesy little shit here. It's actually pretty fantastic. It's very, very casual. As you can see here, I've just possessed a body in what looks to be the morgue. We're in the hospital here. It's kind of strange. So, you possess things, you terrify people, and you reclaim your town. That's the whole point. So, feel free to watch this. For Halloween, so we're gonna be telling some scary stories, or the ones that I can remember. We don't really do Halloween in Australia. It is obviously an American thing. Last couple of years it's picked up. I do like getting dressed up. It kind of gives me an excuse for looking strange, you know, in Halloween. I spent a lot of my years scaring little kids, so actually officially being allowed to do it is a bit of a relief. So I mean, we're not really big originally, I guess, on Halloween. Maybe it's because the country is already terrifying. What with the Tasmanian devil and the plethora of things that want to kill you, the sharks, the crocs, the spiders, even our small spiders are big spiders. and those ones will kill you with poison. Or they will just, I guess, choke you while you sleep. I guess they can do that too. And if you're still doubting me, if you think that, oh, what about the koala? The koala's nice and fluffy. How could that possibly be terrifying? Well, look, hit the pause button, open a new tab, and search for wet koala in Google Images, and then come back and tell me the koalas aren't also fucking terrifying. So, because of this sort of aversion, I guess, to traditional scares, I haven't had too many scary experiences, or too many noteworthy spooky experiences, I should say. I did know a guy. I don't know if this really counts as scary. I think maybe in the non-traditional sense of scary, but he approached me one day, and I was little. This was in school, and he had mentioned that he had been electrocuted. He'd stuck his finger in a socket somewhat deliberately, and he said the electrical socket was sucking his blood. So I don't really know what to think about that. He had quite a mark on his finger, but it looked like he kind of just ripped it open himself, so I don't really know what to think about this guy. I think he's a little bit nuts. And what's scary is that this guy is probably now making decisions that affect people's lives. Hopefully he's learned a thing or two in the 20 odd years since I've actually seen him. But then again, this is also the guy that tried to sell me, I think, Chinese gunpowder, which was actually a rebranded little jar of Chinese 5-spice with extra white pepper inside. So, I don't know, I like to think there's a little bit of faith for everybody, but this guy, I don't know, that's a truly scary thought. But after this guy, I think, what was my first scary experience? Well, I guess there was a slumber party, a sleepover party, when I was much younger. And as a mate of mine, a couple of years older than me actually, so all of his friends were a couple of years older also, and I was the kind of the wimpy little kid in the room. They were all telling ghost stories with a torch and sleeping bags, and then rolling together in their sleeping bags, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? Well, we all watched Mortal Kombat 2. I don't actually remember the ghost story from that night, but I remember being completely terrified by another story he told me another time. And then this is a guy who would, I guess, he wants to be the center of attention, or he needs to find a reason to be the center of attention, so he will lie through his teeth if he thinks that you're gonna pay attention to him. So, being a sucker, and being a couple years younger than him, of course, I was that guy that gave him the attention he wanted. And one day, he comes up to me and he says, "Did you know that I lost my bum in a car crash?" And I'm like, at first I thought, is that even possible? And I'm like, really? That can happen? Yeah, when you're 5 or 6, you kind of don't really question too much. Your skepticism meters are quite low. And he's like, yeah, look, check this out. And he'd kind of start, he normally, we all wore our pants very high back in the old days, by the way. This is maybe 1990, 1991. So it was normal to wear your shorts up near your nipples. So he starts pulling down his shorts. And he'd made a good way down, and he kind of stopped when the waistband was just above the butt crack. But for whatever reason, his misshapen back made it look like his full ass was sticking out, and he just completely did not have an ass crack. And I thought, holy fuck, how do you sit down, bro? You actually don't have an ass. He lost it in a car crash. That is the scariest story I think he ever told me. So, I don't know, like we can move on to actually scary stories now as we move into the museum in Haunt the House here. Fantastic level, this one. Keep an eye on it and continue to listen to the stories. It's gonna get a little bit spooky. So what am I like ghost stories. I like setups. I like movies like 1408. That was, it's very kitsch. It got, I think, hammered on Rotten Tomatoes, but I thought it was fantastic. The idea that you could, if you haven't seen the movie, I recommend seeing it. It's a little bit long, but try and get the, I think the director's cut is the shit one. There are, I think, 1 or 2 extra scenes in the director's cut that are great, but the end scene is rubbish. It ends better in the normal version. So if you're gonna check out 1408, get the normal version and try and kind of splice in the extra director's scenes. But basically, the whole movie revolves around a haunted hotel room. 1408, when you add the digits together, gives you 13, which is a little bit kitsch. But nevertheless, it's a fantastically set up. It feels like a horror story. You know what I mean? It isn't just jump scares, and it isn't overtly terrifying. Well, I mean, some parts are, but there's a kind of a creepy setup. I mean, you've got that typical, oh, a guy goes into a hotel that's apparently haunted, and that's, I mean, it sounds kitsch, but it really works out. And especially if you love special effects and you love creepy style horror movies. None of this jump scare bullshit, none of this, you know what I mean? No loud music, no blood dripping from people's fangs or something like that. People's fangs, yes. So it does play into the creepy sort of aspect quite well. And, I mean, obviously I'm a bit of a fan also of Stephen King. The master of horror. They say he's the master of horror, but you know, I've read probably too many Stephen King books. And he is a fantastic writer when he's trying to write like somebody is thinking. I'm not always really horrified with the stuff he does, because it just seems so over the top, I guess. If you've ever read It, or IT, which is actually, I think I run into scarier things in my IT job than in Stephen King's It. But it is a very long setup, and it steadily gets creepier and creepier, but then the end kind of gets too dumb. Like, he's just dialed up the insanity to try and make it sound terrifying, but it's so unrealistic that you can't possibly be scared anymore. So, I mean, that's my only criticism. If you like long-winded books that seem very realistic until the last 20 pages, then by all means, read Stephen King. But on to actual horror stories. I mean, that's what we're here for. I kinda have a list here. Some are ones that I remember. A couple I've just checked out recently. You know, sometimes you read them and you can't remember this key detail. It's like, why was she scary? Why was this girl scary? Oh, that's right, she didn't have any hands. You know, you forget those key details when you're telling the story. Doing it in person sucks as well. When you're trying to tell a scary story or a joke in person, and you get like 90% of the way through the joke and you're about to deliver the punchline, or the scary part of the story, you realize that you forgot a detail like back at the start. You're like, oh, by the way, yeah, she doesn't have any hair, she lost him in a car accident with my mate's ass. Yeah, that totally, just pretend that I said that like 5 minutes ago. So, here are some quick ones, some quick stories. Now, a while ago, I don't remember where this came from, but a friend introduced me to, I guess, 3-sentence horror stories, and I seen it on Reddit a couple of times. It's just like, what is your shortest horror story, this, that, the other, and these, there's no point in having longer stories now, because some of these are just so fantastic. These 3-sentence horror stories, you've got the setup, the twist, and the pants shitting that inevitably follows the quick story. Oh, horror story, of course. You're supposed to shit your pants, right? Anyway, so let's what have we got here? So there's always a bedroom setup. It's a theme. These horror stories, they kind of, what is the most comfortable place you can be? Well, I can be home, so let's make that kind of creepy, and then you can't sleep after you've read the stories. Or, where do you relax a lot? I relax in a hotel. What's creepy? When both of those things, when you're alone in both of those places. That's terrifying. So, one story. A father goes to tuck his son into bed, and the son says, "Dad, can you check under my bed for monsters?" The father gets down and he lifts up. He goes to check under the bed, and he sees his son there quivering, and the son says, "Dad, there's somebody in my bed." Yeah. You know what, I think I would just abandon both of my sons. In this case, just basically just torch the room, forget about it, and start again. I mean, like, you can just pump out new sons. You don't need to tempt fate. In this case, but like, how do you know which one's a real one? Do you get them to like tell secrets until like one of them makes a mistake? Do you hold a gun to the? How do you do this? What's the other one here? What have we got here? Fantastic. Ah, monsters. Don't be afraid of monsters. You just need to look for them. Look left, look right. Look down and under the bed, but don't look up, they don't like to be seen. No, that's not too bad. It kinda works if you can kinda see yourself in a reflection. I think that could work. So I woke up, and I saw pictures of myself on my phone. Pictures of myself sleeping. The problem is I live alone. You know what? I might have been guilty of a sleep selfie every now and again. You just don't know who's gonna be messaging you in the middle of the night. Send us a dick pic. Look, I'm half asleep, but you can take it anyway. Just ignore the bags under the eye. It'll all be great. Another creepy short story. So, a guy, you're in your room. Or her daughter, this daughter, this girl. I can't remember the story. Is this what I mean? This is one of those stories I don't actually know. I just researched it from my vague memory. A girl is called by her mother from downstairs. So she leaves her room and starts going down the hallway. And then she's pulled into another room. And her mother says, "Don't worry, dear, I heard it as well." I mean, that if I didn't fuck that up, that would have been creepier, let's face it. But, I mean, these ones are kinda good, or maybe I ruined these stories. You gotta kinda be in the mood. I mean, I'm sitting in my room right now, and it's completely dark. There's just Haunt the House playing, and I'm by myself. I'm kinda like on edge, having read these stories already. I'm kinda glancing around and seeing my reflection every now and again, which is a bit bloody creepy. But if I was playing Slender, I don't think I would have quit like 15 minutes ago. They would have gotten past the intro and then conveniently crashed. So there is a majorly favorite horror story I have, and I'm pretty sure everybody has heard it. But I'm gonna attempt to hopefully tell it without fucking it up. If you haven't heard it, then please get into a situation where you take it a little bit seriously, because I think it's a bit better like that. Anyway, here we go. So a guy is traveling between cities, he's on business, and he's heading down the highway. It's getting late, he decides to stop in at a hotel. It says rest stop 5 kilometers, so he pulls over. He goes inside, and it's obviously raining, like all horror stories, it's always raining. And he goes to the proprietor, and he says, you wouldn't happen to have a room for the night, would you? I mean, I know it's short notice. And the woman behind the desk is like, well, look, yeah, we've got it up here on the 4th floor. Well, we've kind of done, like, a little bit of renovation there. So, don't go... You got room 47. Don't go into room 42, please. Everything is an electronic keycard in that room, except for 42, and it's got an old-style lock, but just please stay out of there, right? Just please, don't ask why. So the guy goes, why? She's like, don't ask why. Just please go, stay there. It's complimentary breakfast, blah blah blah. So he takes his bags, takes his electronic key, and he goes upstairs. And as he's heading towards the, down the foyer, or the hallway, towards room 47, he sees room 42, and it doesn't look like the other rooms. It is an older door, it's kind of like a deep mahogany, it looks very aged. Whatever paint used to be on there is long gone, and you've just got old sealant there, and all the other doors are quite nice. Anyway, he sees the old brass handle, the old brass lock fitting, and it's got a big old keyhole. You know, one of those, you can jam an old iron key in there, big old keyhole. And curiosity gets the better of him. He's kind of, you know, oh, the proprietor said, I'm not supposed to be looking in here, but what harm could it do? What could possibly be in here that's so bad? So he gets on his knees and he looks through the keyhole, and he can see just a dim room, kind of lit up by a single light. An old, maybe a candle. And in the corner, facing the corner, standing there, wearing nothing but a slip, is a woman. Maybe 18 or 25. Quite young. Long black hair down to her knees. Looking into the corner. And as she starts to move, he pulls away. And he thinks, oh shit, how rude. Okay, I guess there's somebody just staying here. That's a little bit... Why would she tell me that? Anyway, so he goes into his room. He has a night's sleep. And, he, leaves his room. And he goes past the door again. And he thinks, is this... I wonder if that woman's still in here. So he goes to look in there. And it's just red. The whole keyhole is red now. And he thought, oh, I guess I've bothered this woman, and she's kind of just put a little napkin or a pillowcase over the top of it. I guess a handkerchief, red handkerchief, over the top of it. Well, I'll be sure to apologize in the morning, the next time I see her. So, anyway, as he goes to check out, he talks to the proprietor, and he says, look, I don't mean to be rude, but I went ahead and I looked into room 42. The woman throws up her hand. She's like, why'd you do that for? He's like, oh, look, the handle, the knob was there. I had to have a look. And what's going on in there? Like, there's just this woman in there. What's the big deal about it? And the woman said, look, I told you, I asked you, please, not to look into the room. You did it. I may as well tell you why. Anyway, a couple of years ago, a family came through here. A father and his daughter. They were a little bit strange. And while they were staying here, the father lost his mind and brutally killed his daughter. And that room, so, is actually haunted. We cannot lease that room out. And the thing about this man's daughter was that she was pale. Very, very pale. And she was a little bit strange. And I think this led to his madness. She was very beautiful, except for her one single red glowing eye. And that's the story. That is my favorite horror story. It kinda sends a shiver up my spine whenever I think about looking through that keyhole 1 inch away from this ghost's giant glowing red eye. And I think, fuck me, there's no way. There's no way I'd be able to deal with that. And, this level is also fantastic, by the way, if you're paying attention to the level. There are also, like, characters here that you can, I guess, execute. Like this Chef Boyardee here. Fantastic. So I don't know what I would do in that sort of situation. I guess maybe kill myself. I don't know. It's all a little bit creepy. There are lots of variations on that story too. The original way I heard it was that she was albino. So the guy would see her and she's all very pale and she's got her long black hair, and then he sees the eyes that are red. But I thought that is ridiculous because albinos are white with very blue eyes, generally. So it's you have to make the story a little bit believable, right? She's just crazy. And another version I heard was the guy wasn't traveling in between states. The guy was just from Kiev. Like, being Ukrainian, Russian, like, makes it scarier in this case. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was an old Soviet horror story. And it wasn't actually a horror story, it was just a recollection from somebody's business trip to Kiev. But those are, I guess, those are the few stories that I have. I mean, I do have another story. It's not really a horror story, but I guess it could be a bit terrifying. So anyway, as the story goes, this is originally Russian too. Let me see if I can remember the whole thing. So the original story is, one time there was a grizzly bear attacking this city, this little village, and they decided to round up some bear hunters to go and kill this grizzly bear. So they got the number one bear hunter in the village, Yuri. Of course, his name is Yuri. And anyway, five or six of them get together, and they track the bear. Yuri tracks the bear through the forest to caves, and they're all standing outside. And Yuri goes, "Look, I'm gonna go into the cave, and if I don't come out, tell my family I love them." So they give Yuri a rope. They tie a rope around him. It's like, "Yep, give us a couple of tugs if you want to come back." Blah 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 blah. So Yuri goes into the cave, and they don't hear anything for a long time. They don't hear any shots fired. They pull on the rope. Nothing heard. They can just hear growling in the distance. Pull on the rope a little bit. Nothing heard. So they decide to pull Yuri's body back, and as they drag Yuri's body from this grizzly's cave, this man-eating grizzly's cave, he doesn't have a head. And Georgie says, "Didn't Yuri have a head?" He's like, and one other one says, "Well, I don't know. Maybe. Let's ask his mother. She'll remember." So they drag Yuri's body back to the hometown, and they prop up his body for the mother, and they ask his mother if Yuri had a head. She sits there horrified for a second. She's like, "Yes, he must have. I bought him a hat last year." Less scary overall, I think. Anyway, that was Haunt the House Terrortown. These were my shitty stories. I hope you had fun. I hope at least one of those stories was scary enough to warrant a Halloween video. Especially the Red Eye story. If you're gonna tell it, feel free to chuck in the albino part, but please know that they don't have red eyes. That is the number one sort of annoyance in this case. People get a little bit miffed sometimes. And yeah, feel free to check out the quick stories on, I think it's 3-sentence horror stories on Reddit. That's fantastic. You're gonna shit yourself, especially if you get a little bit loaded and it's dark and you're by yourself and it's cold. You will not have a good time. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great Halloween, you guys, and I'll see you next time.